We got a lot of trades to catch up on, including a top 10 prospect getting moved. That hasn't happened in a while. Of course, Aram Leighton, Jack McMullen. There's going to be more trades by the time this is out. We're recording this at 2:30 p.m. on July 31st. But we need to get this one out because we're going to need another episode to get through all the other trades that haven't even happened yet anyways. This is an episode full of trades that we've already got. And we still need to do the newcomers to the top 100 list, which you can expect next week too, because everything gets pushed aside for the trade deadline, especially when AJ Preller goes AJ Preller mode, Jack.
100%. He's a madman. I don't know if I always agree with it, but this could look really good in a couple years if Mason Miller turns into a starting pitcher again. We'll talk about that in a moment, but I also want to hit on why we can't record tomorrow. You're headed to Chicago for a big card event.
Yes, I am going to be at the National, and I'm already kind of gearing up for probably spending way too much money there. I'm hoping to sell more than I buy. That never happens, but I'm very excited about that. It's crazy timing. They always do it like right on the heels of the deadline, but fortunately, deadline ends right before, and then I'll be pumped up for that. And we're actually doing a 2024 Bowman draft break with our friends at Hit Seekers and Loop. You can join that in the episode description. You can also just download the Loop app, which is, I think, the best way to get into breaks, buy individual cards, whatever it may be. If you download the Loop app with the link in the episode description or use code JBaseball, you will get a $10 credit to your first purchase over $50. So if you buy into the break with the link or in the code, you'll get a $10 credit to the Loop app to apply to individual cards, all that good stuff. But very pumped about that. Going to do a live stream with them. Ripping probably my favorite class now all of a sudden. The 2024 class is getting up there. 2019 draft is always going to have a special place in my heart, but 2024 Bowman draft is looking pretty fun. We just talked about Carson Bench getting up to 19, but there's almost, you can't go wrong. Khal Stephen, who we're going to talk about, just got traded, but that's a guy that's pitched his way into the top 100. He's probably someone that you're not even looking at as primary in the Blue Jays spot of that break. It's usually Trey Savage. So download the Loop app, LOUPE.card/JBaseball, and you can get the $10 in credit. Would love to have you hang out with us in that break. But yeah, I was not expecting Khal to get traded. We're already seeing some 2024 draftees get moved.
Yeah, dude, and we're seeing 18-year-olds get moved too. And we are going to start with AJ Preller being an absolute nut job. The Mason Miller JP Sears deal, I feel like you can't just call it the Mason Miller deal because Sears does have 2 more years of control and he's a starting pitcher that will give you 180 innings a year. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think it's pretty fair to say.
Okay, so the whole transaction was the Padres acquire Mason Miller and JP Sears for Leo DeVries, top 10 prospect in all of baseball, according to Just Baseball and consensus. Right hander Braden Nett, who is a top 10 prospect in the Padres system, according to Mr. Aram Leighton. Henry Baez, same deal. And Eduardo Nunez, who's a 26-year-old reliever that did debut this year with San Diego. So Miller and Sears for DeVries, Nett, Baez, and Nunez. Let's start with Leo DeVries. I'm just going to give you my overarching take and then I'll let you run rampant. You can get a little reckless dreaming about the future of this A's infield with Kurtz at first, with DeVries, with Jacob Wilson, and then whoever separates, whether it's Max Muncy, whether it's Zach Geloff. Like, with what's going on in that outfield right now, you probably have the best center fielder in the game in Denzel Clark. You got Lawrence Butler on an extension. You got Rooker on an extension. Pitching's a question, but dude.
You got an arm too. Like Braden, that's a good arm to add to the fold. He's going to be one of their more interesting pitching prospects all of a sudden too, from the right side at least. So I think that side of it's really fun. DeVries, you hope you can stick it short, and then you cross that bridge when you get there. But now it's like, okay, if he moves over to third, man, that left side of the infield would be a lot of fun. You got Jacob Wilson, DeVries over there, Kurtz at first, as you mentioned, and then whoever at second base. This is I think the Athletics were in a spot where I'm sure they were not eager to move Mason Miller, and you basically had to make them do it, right? And the way to do that is by trading a prospect that they'll probably never be able to acquire. You just, unless you're trading with AJ Preller, you're not going to be able to get a prospect of Leo DeVries' ability. It's just players like that don't get traded anymore. It just doesn't happen. Consensus top 10 prospects just don't go, especially when they play shortstop. So I think that side of it is really exciting for the Athletics. I think I love Preller doing his thing. Like I think it's a really aggressive haul, and we're going to talk about the major league side of that a little bit more on the Just Baseball show. But you're getting Mason Miller, what, with 4 years of control after this one?
Yeah.
It, if the plan is to transition him to a starter and that goes well, then it's worth it, right? Like you're potentially getting a crochet type of outcome there. But that's a very lofty dream there, and you're hoping on things working out in the exact way that you like best case scenario dream on. If it's just for a closer, even though you're getting them for a half decade, it's a steep price to pay. It definitely is, and it's not just the prospect head saying, "Oh, prospect return was too much." I honestly, I think a lot of the time it's worth it. This is one where it's interesting, but I think it's just also what went on top as well. Like Braden Ned is not a light complimentary piece. I'd argue that if I was trading with the Padres, that'd be one of the first players I'd be asking about after DeVries. I think you could make the case depending on the team situation. Some teams may prefer Braden Net, as opposed to some of these younger lefties that are way further off, like a Cash Mayfield or whatever it may be, because Net's throwing the crap out of the ball now in Double A over his last 10 plus starts. But
Yep.
the last thing I'll mention on DeVries is he's going over there is still 18 years old and doing the second half thing again, where he's settled in the second half, starting to slug a little bit more, starting to look more comfortable at high A. His last 25 games is an 844 OPS. The EVs are up. He's walking nearly as much as he's striking out. It seems like it's coming together at high A for DeVries. So he could be in double by the end of the year, and a guy that could be a year off from debut. He could debut at 20. And I mean, that's really exciting things for an athletics franchise that is looking for an identity, and I think they've got this exciting core now all of a sudden.
What do you like about Henry Baez? 22-year-old from the DR. Baez this year, 20 starts at a 196 through 96 and two-thirds innings.
He was what, six, you said, on the preseason top 10 for us. He was well within the top 10. I'm pretty sure he was six for us. I mean, when we talked about the Padres system, he was a guy that I felt like had gotten really underrated with what he has been able to do. The way he finished last year in Double A as a 21-year-old, and then this year repeating the level, but just kicking things into another gear. I think you've seen the command, come along. He's only walking 8% of batters. The fastball has performed incredibly. It's 95 miles an hour, great characteristics. Opponents are hitting 190 against it, and then you've got the curveball that's performed like a plus pitch for him, and then he's still kind of working to find that more consistent third pitch, I should say secondary offering, because he's got the four seamer and the sinker and then the curveball. So that does kind of give him three pitches, but he's looking for that secondary. But it allows him to pick up above average ground ball rates, only 2 home runs on the year in the Texas League. Opponents rating 195 overall. This is a pair of really solid arms to get on top of DeVries.
Yeah. Henry Baez was number 8 on the top prospect list that was released at the end of May. Braden Nett was number 5, and DeVries obviously was number 1. Only other guy in this deal is Eduardo Nunez, and Nunez was a guy that bounced around a little bit. He's 26 years old. He debuted again this year. I saw him throw as a Cubs prospect, and I was like really unimpressed, to be totally honest with you. He was walking the world, and in the minor leagues, he's walking 6 hitters per 9. What's the deal this year? So I see in San Antonio and El Paso, like the walk rate is down. He walked 17 guys in 35 innings. The strikeouts are there, obviously, but for me, it's like it was just so easy to see how that guy could not find the strike zone.
Yeah.
But development's not linear.
No, it's a fun flyer. I mean, you're getting a guy that throws 98 on average, touches triple digits. Opponents have a 554 OPS. So like take a shot as the fourth piece in this deal. And I mean, when you look at the last 20 outings for him, and this is including the big leagues where he's been up and down a little bit, he's got a 0.78 ERA. So I mean, it's Nunez versus Nunez, but in that span, fastball's averaging 99. He's had outings this year where he's sitting 100, 101. I mean, this is an electrifying arm to add to the fold. So to get him as that fourth piece and throw him into your bullpen,
Yeah.
because they need another bullpen arm. It's an exciting, just high octane stuff to kind of add in there.
Let's jump to the Eugenio Suarez deal. Eugenio Suarez goes back to Seattle. The premier rental bat is off the market. He went late on Wednesday night. Gino Suarez back to Seattle for Tyler Locklear, who has graduated by prospect standards, I think.
Yeah.
Hunter Cranton as well, a right-hander, and Juan Burgos, a right-hander. So a couple of arms that I haven't heard of. And then Tyler Locklear, a guy who was kind of phased out of the big league situation in Seattle. Seems like he's just going to play first for Arizona with Naylor gone now.
Yeah, well, do you remember the conversation we've been long been having about Locklear? And I was like, man, I really hope he adjusts that setup and all the hand movement that he has, in his load.
Yeah.
And just it was so disruptive. He's really cleaned that up now. And he starts with his hands way lower. He's clearly just one of those guys that needs to move it a little bit. So he found a way to do that without it being as disruptive. And I know it's the PCL, but his last 40 games, 362 with 1156 OPS, 14 homers. The contact rates are up. The swing decisions are far improved. He's only striking out 22% of the time, and he's leaving the field foul pole to foul pole. I mean, the spray chart is ridiculous. So, I mean, I think they may be buying on an upswing here and getting a guy that they need a first baseman. Naylor's gone. Pavin Smith can kind of platoon and do different things. They also have the DH spot, a little bit more open now too. Looks like the guy that can just be the first baseman for them. And it's a good environment for him to hit in, obviously. But this has been a different Tyler Locklear this year. And I don't think there's any shot he's headlining a deal for Eugenio Suarez last year. But this is a hitter. Said development isn't linear, right? This is a powerful hitter who's flashed things through the minor leagues, but seemed like it might not totally translate because of those mechanics. He's cleaned up those mechanics, and I think it will translate now. And it looks like he could be an above average big league bat.
And he's still only 24 years old. So Tyler Locklear, and he still does have prospect eligibility. I think
Yeah.
it's only 49 major league plate appearances, and that came last year. It was just so long ago. I was like, yeah,
It's
no
just, yeah,
shot.
6 homers in his last 9 games as he heads over, too.
Yeah, he's already at a career high in homers, and he's only played, what, 98 games this year in AAA? So, there you go. There's clearly a correction made. Hunter Cranton is somebody that we were texting about last night. Older side at 24 years old, turns 25 in October, was a third round pick of Seattle last year out of the University of Kansas. But Cranton this year, 10 innings, got out to a late start. 10 innings, 5 hits, 1 run, 14 punch outs, and 3 walks. What's this guy's deal?
He's dirty. I mean, he's absolutely dirty. To get taken in the third round when you're 23 years old on draft day, you got to be pretty darn good in terms of the stuff. And I think it's a guy that, yes, he's a reliever. They probably saved money with that pick. I don't remember exactly what the bonus allotment was there, but I think guy that can move really quickly. You've seen him just absolutely dominate this year. He missed the start of the season, and since he's returned, like, I mean, it's been nails. He gave up a run in his first outing, and then since then, I mean, it has just been consistently good. The last 7 outings, no runs, 10 strikeouts. You look at the fastball, it's averaging 97 and a half. Then the slider is 90 miles an hour and looks like it could be a double plus pitch. Like, you've got a probably you could have a pair of 70s here with these two pitches, but even if it's a 60 heater and 60 slider, I think with the way he's commanding it, it could be a guy that you plug into the bullpen as soon as next year. 6'4", 215. I think being older and everything as well, I think they move him, up through the ranks pretty quickly. But this is a nasty arm, and I think uh, when you look at the D-backs and what they're trying to do,
Yeah.
again, they're trying to bolster that bullpen. I'd imagine that even though he's only thrown at high A, this is a dude that they have circled and saying he can be in our bullpen next year and help us.
Hunter Cranton, I've got the slot values up here and what they signed for. Obviously, they went full slot on Senja in the first round last year, and then in the second round, they pretty much doubled the slot of Ryan Sloan. They gave him 1.4 over slot, so they kind of had to punt 2 picks. They punted a Duke pitcher, Charlie Bellinson. They signed him for 25 grand. Slot was 431 in the fifth round, but Cranton at slot value $812,000. He signed for $50,000 in the third round.
Yeah.
$50,000 third round pick, and they turned him into Eugenio Suarez.
But clearly they didn't want to risk waiting any longer to not snag him either, right?
Yeah.
So I think that does say a lot. Even though they saved a ton of money, they don't think they wanted him slipping beyond that third round, because if they waited any longer, maybe another team tries the underslot thing as well. So I'm excited to see how fast they move Cranton, but there's no doubting that this stuff is nasty.
Okay, next deal that we got to talk about is
Wait, was there one more
Jhoan.
player? Did we miss? Is there one
Oh,
more?
Juan Burgos. Yeah.
Oh, Juan Burgos. He's just going to plug right into the bullpen. I mean, it's another just high octane stuff, averaging 96, disgusting cutter. He's already been up a little bit this year. Just another guy. They're stocking up that pen.
There we go. Why not? I mean, and you've got a decimated bullpen there with Puck and Martinez, and there are a couple other guys that I haven't shouted out that are on the mend right now. But let's jump to Jhoan Duran, that deal taking him from Minnesota to Philadelphia. They had to give up two legit guys, and it was Eduardo Tait, the catcher, and Mick Abel, the pitcher. Abel, we've seen at the big league level this year, and Abel flashed some brilliance at the major league level. But let's start with Tait because that is a consensus top 100 prospect, and he's a top 70 prospect on Just Baseball's top 100.
Yeah, and I mean, it could probably be a little bit higher than that if the defense comes along a bit more. But I mean, you're getting the opportunity to add a potentially special bat here, and I think I'm excited to talk about the Able side of it too because I think that's a fascinating wrinkle as well. But Tait just got bumped up to high A about a week ago, and in his last 3 games, like he needed a couple games to settle in, and then in his last 3 games, 2 hits, 3 hits and 2 doubles, 2 hits, and then he gets moved. But it just seems like a natural hitter. The one thing is he's a little bit aggressive. I think that'll get better. But you're talking about a left-handed hitting catcher who's already popping EVs at 114 miles per hour. The talent and potential there. Ground ball rate of just 41%. The contact rates are above average. Literally the only like yellow flag minor concern in his profile is the aggression. And great. We'll teach an 18, 19-year-old hitter who's playing against more challenging competition to rein it in a little bit as he gets more ABs under his belt. What you can't teach is 114 miles per hour from the left side at 18 years old. So I think the upside here is he could legitimately be a catcher who hits 30 home runs and like from the left side. You just don't get that. And even if he moves off of the position, which he has so much runway to prove that he can stick there, even if he moves off the position, this guy could just be an offensive like machine and be a middle of the order bat. There's enough potential there as well. So the blend of bat to ball and power is immense, and it's just going to come down to the approach, which he's got all the time in the world to I think shore up a little bit.
Yeah. Mick Abel, meanwhile, is experiencing the best year of his career probably at the professional level. I'm just looking at what he's done. 14 starts in low A and 21 at a 4.4 ERA. 22 starts between high A and double at a 3.9 in 22. In 23, he struggled a little bit between double and triple. In 24, he was really bad in triple A. And this year, 13 starts at a 2.3 ERA, 74 innings and 81 punchouts in Lehigh Valley. First 6 starts as a big leaguer under his belt. There have been some that are kind of blow-ups, so it's resulting in a 5 ERA through his first 25 major league innings. But this guy made a correction, and it seems like he could be a middle-of-the-rotation arm.
What'd you think in that big league start against you guys?
I thought the arsenal was a little limited. That was my big take from that, but I thought he was executing those pitches all right. Like, I see why the pitches that he has are good, but it feels like he may not have a starter bag at this point in terms of being like a great one. In terms of back the
So
rotation starter, he could be that guy.
do you think limited from like capabilities or just what he was comfortable throwing in that game?
Probably what he was comfortable throwing in that game. Like there were some pitches that he threw, and I was like, these are uncompetitive right now. So he's got to rely on, he pretty much relied on, if memory serves, 2 pitches. He relied on the fastball, and then he relied on, I think, the slider off that.
Yeah, no, and to your point, like he has a changeup that has flashed at points, but it's just not usable right now. It's a sub
Right.
50% strike rate.
And
So
there's a difference between AAA usable and big league usable. And if you're a sub 50% strike rate on a changeup, nobody's going to acknowledge it. And as soon as they ID changeup, major league hitters are better at that than AAA hitters. Like it's not usable in the big
yeah,
leagues.
and then it's four seamer sinker. That's 58% of his usage right now between AAA and the big leagues. Then you have the two breaking balls, which the slider stands out as better. The curveball though seems or excuse me, the curveball has actually performed better of late, but the slider is more trustworthy in terms of the strike rate and consistency, and he uses them pretty equally. And I'm curious, like if I filter by MLB games, what the usage kind of shifts to, he actually leans a little bit more to the curveball of late, but I think against that in the Marlins in that game he did go a little bit more slider. It seems like he's kind of riding whatever he's got
Yeah.
in that individual start. But what's very clear here, and I think undeniable, is that the command is far improved from where it was before.
Yeah.
And maybe that was part of the adjustment, right? It was like, okay, you have all of this stuff that could be front line. I mean, and that's why when I was writing about just kind of my thoughts on where McAble's at now and just summarizing the trade is he's not where I think when he was drafted, people were dreaming on front line, and it was easy to see. He was touching triple digits. He had these assortment of pitches he was flashing, but he just couldn't quite harness it. And then last year, he looked like a guy that was trending towards being a depth arm, which again, he has plenty of time, but it was what it looked like last year. And now it looks like he's settled in somewhere in between. And I know that's a really wide spectrum, but so it goes with prep right-handers when they're drafted. And I think somewhere in between is a really valuable piece to get here. I think somewhere in between is a number 4 starter in the big leagues for a long time who still has that in him. You never know. Like he might add the patented Twins cutter, and that might be the bridge pitch for him. With the 2 other breaking balls in the 4-seamer, and all of a sudden you've got another look to him. He's not even 24 yet. But what I like is you are for sure getting a back into the rotation starter here with 6 years of control. Yeah. And that's extremely valuable. We're talking about 2.5 years of an elite reliever, but to get a top notch prospect, like if it weren't for DeVries getting moved, I think you could say Tait would probably be the best prospect moved at the deadline. And also a guy that's not often available. And the catchers who hit for power from the left side, you don't get those guys at the deadline very often. So to get that with a Mick Abel on top of that, I didn't think was a bad return at all for the Twins. But I can understand it depends on how high they are on Abel. And I do feel like he still has that middle rotation potential.
I will say from a big league analysis perspective, this could be the move that puts Philly over the top. Oh. When they move for Duran, I'm thinking, okay, they might win the World Series here.
I mean, I think that's the move I had been mocking the most and wanted to see. I even went on a couple shows and like, what's one trade you'd love to see at the deadline? I think that was the one I plugged the most because it's just that felt like the missing piece for them. Yeah. It felt like that's the last thing, someone that can just lock down that 9th inning. And
was it always Duran or was it a closer for them?
It was a closer, and then I'd say Duran.
Gotcha.
It just felt like the best fit. I mean, yeah. And you get a guy with a little bit more control. You can do this for a couple years now. It just screams Dombrowski. Like, go get the most valuable. I guess Mason Miller was, but that was never going to happen. Go get the most valuable, reasonably available reliever on the market. But I do think the Twins did all right in this one, especially if you're going to go trade some other pitchers, because then Abel plugs right in. And I know that they've got a lot of guys in the upper minors, but those guys most of them don't have the stuff that Abel has. Go trade a couple more of those veteran arms potentially. Then they already moved Paddock, and and I think you're set up.
Well, and you clear your blue chip prospect in Randy Dobnak for Abel's runway. So
yeah, they dumped $1 million there, right?
They did. They dumped $1 million. Let's go to another closer deal here. Ryan Helsley goes to the Mets from St. Louis. That actually happened right before Marlins Cardinals. It was kind of interesting, but they were working without a reliever in that Cardinal bullpen. Ryan Helsley to New York for Jesus Baez, Nate Dome, and Frank Elisalt. Is it Elisalt?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Jesus Baez, a guy that jumps out, 20-year-old, got to high A and has been very good. 10 homers already in pitcher-friendly Brooklyn. And oh, by the way, he keeps the K rate in check mightily.
Yeah. No, it's funny because the swing has been a work in progress. When we did the Met system, that was something that stood out to me because I think there were some people that were really bullish on him, and he was one of the tougher players for me to assess going into this year. But I think he's done a lot of things to increase his value and improve his outlook. And I think the swing looks a lot more simple and clean, and he's handling velocity much better this year. The EVs are well above average. You want to see that translate into game power a little bit more, but to your point, I think it's just the Brooklyn. Just what comes with the territory there. I think it's just getting stifled a bit by the environment and how the wind off of Coney Island just knocks everything down. Yeah. But I think you could get a little bit more adept to hitting the ball hard in the air. Like he's a guy where you look at the swing path and then I go immediately to what's the average launch angle on hard hit balls. Yeah. And sure enough, it's 2 degrees. So while the ground ball rate's not exorbitantly high, it's only 44%. When he's getting his best swing off or when he's hitting the ball most flush, it's very flat and it's a low liner, hard ground ball. So that's going to be the next piece, is just finding a way to elevate more. But a 20-year-old, 20 for the entirety of the season, putting up the numbers that he's putting up, I think is extremely encouraging. He's not going to stick it short, but he looks like he can play all over the infield potentially. It's a nice piece to get for a rental. But I thought it was interesting to see the arms that the Cardinals targeted. And I think publicly, like we're going to talk about the Giants, or we already did talk about the Giants return actually in the last episode. Yeah. And I think a bunch of people are going to say, whoa, like, that return was crazy. And Look how much more Rogers got than Helsley. That's, I don't like to be this way, but like that's the difference. I think sometimes where if you just the public lists versus maybe the frequently recalibrating and refreshing private lists, and also the importance that teams have on a 40-man spot, right? Like
Yep.
you clear two, three 40-man spots after the season if you're the Mets with that deal, to go get a Rogers. And then in this deal, I think the Cardinals said, hey, we'll take higher variance, but they're getting higher upside guys that they don't have to add to the 40 for a while. And if you look at the Cardinals drafts, they love Verdi fastball guys, and they get two of those guys in complement with Bias.
There we go. And you got Nate Dome here. Nate Dome, 22-year-old from Zionsville, Indiana, which is an Indy suburb. Started his college career at Ball State. Cardinals shout out, chirp, chirp. Nate Dome then transferred to Mississippi State this year, 62 and two-thirds innings across 17 starts. He's got a 2.87 ERA. He's punched out 77 in 62 and two-thirds. So Dome can really rip it. And then Ellis Salt is somebody that it seemed like people were fired up about.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, and that's a funny thing, right? Because you're going to look at, just some general rankings and you'll be like, oh, well, Blade Tidwell is a way better get, right? And I would way rather have Nate Dome and Elisalt than Budo and Tidwell.
Gotcha.
Especially when you factor in the 40-man implications. But Dome gets plus vert on the heater. He's 6'4", 220. The slider works well off of it. And he's trying to find that third pitch a little bit more consistently, but you have the fallback. That's going to play well in the bullpen. And then Elisalt, like that's a data darling, just another one of those crazy David Stearns finds that I think could be a monster. 95 miles an hour, even more ridiculous characteristics on the fastball, a plus sweeper, then a slider that's distinguishably different shape-wise off of that. And then he's been working in a cutter and a splitter to try to find a little bit more consistency with one of those pitches. But I mean, he has been managed a little bit more carefully innings-wise, but he's got crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. And I think this is a fun upside play where you don't have to worry about adding him to the 40 for a couple years. And I mean, this is somebody that, again, as the fallback to be an elite reliever, but I think this is going to work as a starter, and I think you're going to see a lot of helium with him soon.
Nova Southeastern kid too. Shout
Yeah.
out that. We got a couple quick ones here that were just added to the fold. David Bednar is now a New York Yankee.
Ooh.
David Bednar to New York for a package of 3 prospects. The only guy that is known at this point is Rafael Flores. I will say that's a humongous get for the Pittsburgh Pirates to grab Rafael Flores. He's a guy that might not catch. He's kind of Ben Rice Jr. right now. The Pirates are clamoring for Ben Rice Jr. right now. He can play catcher. He can play first base. We'll see what happens with McCutchen. He can DH. Rafael Flores is a warm body in that Pirate lineup is a win for them when they have to move a guy in Bednar.
Oh, no doubt. And I think they're going to get some other decent pieces along with. So I'm excited to see. But you're a Pirates team that has pitching, right? So, like, we've talked about them needing bats. If you're going to trade relievers and things like that, I don't want to see a low level guy. I don't want to see a low A piece here. This is where you're 40 man, you have plenty of room on it. Let's add some prospects that let's leverage that, right? And let's take advantage of that opportunity, like the Giants kind of did too. But even more so here, he could DH. He could play first base maybe when you want to shelter Horwitz from lefties if you want to do that. And then he can catch a couple times a week too. I think there's a lot of different ways that you can find Flores getting into that lineup, and you might as well just do it right away. I mean, like I know he just got to AAA, but maybe you have him up there have him hang out in Indy for a month or two. But I would consider getting him up there right after August 15th or so, and you can preserve the rookie eligibility if you care that much about that. But I think that's a pretty fun headliner, and I'm interested to see what the other two pieces are, though. I think it's going to be two pretty good complementary pieces as well.
We'll see what happens there. And then the other one that just came through, San Diego grabbed a catcher, and he immediately becomes their best catcher, Freddie Fermin from the Kansas City Royals. I
Ooh.
think that's a decent get for San Diego, but the return was Ryan Bergert, a pitching prospect who made his major league debut this year. 25-year-old from Canton, Ohio. Bergert, he has thrown 35 and two-thirds innings for the Padres this year. They've been good ones at a 2.78 ERA. 11 starts with AAA El Paso, 44 and two-thirds at a 4.03 ERA in a PCL environment. So Bergert, he's proven to be like a valuable upper minors arm for them, but they're pushing the chips in here, and they needed to get out of that Martin Maldonado, Elias Diaz tandem. That was so hard to watch for 6
Oh,
games.
Oh my gosh, it was brutal. We were talking about that, man. And he's a burger. This kind of feels like the Adam Azier thing, where it's a good get for the team acquiring him, but at the same time, Preller's had a great feel for being able to reload these back end of the rotation, swing man, maybe up and down kind of guys that are good pieces to have. But
Yeah.
Bergert's 25. This one makes a lot more sense for me. And for me, I mean, he's, I think, consistently been one of the more underrated catchers in the game. And we just talked about Carter Jensen and how he is rising as much as anybody. He was one of the biggest risers on our top 100. The EVs are crazy. The defense has come along to where it looks like it could potentially be average. Fermin is kind of expendable at this point. So to be able to add an arm, back into the fold there, they could always use some pitching depth. We'll see if they want to, put him in as a bullpen arm or keep him as this depth starter. But I think there's going to be a couple spots in that rotation opening up potentially. They locked up Lugo. I'm
They
trying to think
locked up
who else.
Lugo, but
Walker's locked up.
They also grabbed Stephen Kolek in that deal. So it's Bergert
Oh, they
and
got
Stephen
Kolek
Kolek
too.
for Freddie Fermin. That just came through.
I missed the Kolek part. I was just
No, I
thinking,
missed that entirely. That literally just happened.
wow. So they must be moving an arm too. The
Kansas
Royals.
City,
Yeah.
who would they be moving? Because Bubic is out, Lugo is extended.
Or it might just be the fact that they want the depth, right? Like because they know, hey, we don't know what's going to happen with Reagan's next year.
Or with
Off of
Bubic next year,
Bubic,
rotator
both
cuff.
have rotator issues. So I guess that makes sense because who do you really have locked in for next year? It's Waka, Lugo, Cameron,
Yeah.
and then your guys internally. I don't think are kicking the door down other than Cameron. So that's interesting. I think it's good to get some pitching depth for a catcher that's not really in necessity for you right
No,
now,
firm
especially if they
backup, especially when you have Carter Jensen in AAA at this point.
and Blake Mitchell hopefully making up some ground behind him. But Jensen looks like he's ready to help sooner rather than later, both offensively and if he's an average defender, like that's fine. That's probably what it'll be closer to.
Yeah.
That's a fun one. I
It is a
like that.
fun one. It's a unique one. All right, we're going to keep on going. We're going to get to the Tyler Rogers deal in a moment. He went to the Mets, but before that, listen, getaway day night game is absolutely criminal, I will say. We had a 7:45 Eastern first pitch in St. Louis. Head hit the pillow at 4:15 a.m. And then you get up and you got the deadline going on here. I also have like a little finger thing going on right now. I had to go to urgent care and get some antibiotics. I'm fine, everybody. Thanks for asking, Aram. I appreciate it. But it's these kind of days where things just snowball on you and say, what if it all goes downhill? Is everybody going to be okay? And that's why I turn to my friends at Ethos Life Insurance. Okay. Ethos is the place that I will trust when it comes to life insurance. They're an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy to protect your family's future in minutes, not in months. No complicated process. Ethos is 100% online. There's no medical exam required. You just answer a few health questions. You get a quote in as little as 10 minutes, and you can get same day coverage without ever leaving your house. And life insurance, more affordable than you think. With Ethos, you can get a free quote and customize a rate that fits your budget. You can get up to $3 million in coverage, and some policies as low as $2 a day billed monthly. Protect your family and yourself. Life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/justbaseball. That's Ethos, ethos.com/justbaseball. Tyler Rogers deal. Tyler Rogers goes from San Francisco to New York, and you alluded to it a couple of minutes ago. Tyler Rogers, the return for him, Jose Butto, big league reliever, Blade Tidwell, who made his debut this year, and Drew Gilbert, former first-round pick of the Astros, that was part of that Justin Verlander deal. All three of these guys have their flaws. Two of them have tried and kind of failed at the major league level in Tidwell and Butto. And Gilbert, you and I have talked about it just seems like the ceiling is so darn limited on this guy. So
Yeah.
to echo your point, like it looks like a crazy haul, but is it a crazy haul?
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about. Like we touched on it briefly off the top yesterday, because like Budo, you look at the numbers and oh, he has a 3.45 ERA, and yeah, you could say he's a solid reliever potentially, but I mean he was unusable in the postseason, and I mean the strikeout numbers have dropped to career low this year. He still walks more than 4 per 9. I think he's fine, but I'm not worried about that side of it. And then Drew Gilbert, I think, has really improved his stock this year, but at the same time, if you're still improving your stock as a prospect and you're going on 25 years old, you're almost treading water a little bit because you're aging to a point where teams become a little bit, less inclined to acquire you in deals like this, while also proving to be a little bit more capable offensively. I think Gilbert has improved enough in the EVs department and the air pull department to look like a bulk platoon bat and left, and maybe he can play center field as well and kind of be this fourth outfielder type. But I think he's definitely a bulk platoon bat. He's hitting 160 against Southpaws this year. He's just continued to struggle against them, but he's has an 870 OPS and a 278 batting average against righties. So I think the fact that he could potentially play all three outfield spots, hit righties pretty well, it's a nice get. You leverage the fact that you have the 40-man availability. You also can go get a Tidwell in that regard as well. But again, I just think those are guys that are a little bit more limited. You think about like the AJ Ewings of the world, and those are people that in the Mets system, I think if the Mets traded AJ Ewing, you would have heard. Yeah, and I was actually talking about this with somebody I really respect in the industry, because it was like, we're saying, I don't think this was a big overpaid. The conversation was like, if it was AJ Ewing, people would say, oh, good trade. But internally, the Mets would way rather trade Drew Gilbert than AJ Ewing, or Blade Tidwell than AJ Ewing. So
Yeah.
I think that's the disconnect there. And ultimately, it's still a good get for the Giants, but I don't think the Mets are losing sleep over moving these two guys.
Yeah. Also, watching a couple of Blade Tidwell's interviews, with all due respect, he's a weird looking guy.
That's not
He's
very nice.
Yeah, I know, but like he's kind of an odd looking guy. Like the haircut into the
The
face.
haircut's great with the chain. I thought I like the look. What was they were saying? What was it? Neville
Yeah,
from
Neville
iCarly.
Papperman from iCarly. That's
Yeah,
exactly what he looked like. I was
that
like,
was the comp he was getting. I love it.
interesting. Okay. All right, we've got a 1-for-1 swap, and this one actually fascinated me. This might have been like, in a weird, twisted way, my favorite trade of the deadline to this point. Shane Bieber, who's on rehab, goes from Cleveland to Toronto for Khal Stephen, who has been one of the premier pop-up prospects in baseball this year. You've got him in the top 90 on Just Baseball's Top 100 update that released earlier this week. Stephen for Bieber straight up. Bieber has an option next year, and Steven is a guy who has been throwing the living crap out of the ball in Toronto's system.
I mean, he's already in Double A, fresh off the draft. Crazy characteristics on the fastball. I mean, gets elite ride. Opponents are hitting 160 against it with a sub 500 OPS. And then it's similar to the Savage template. Like I do think this is what the Blue Jays are attacking a little bit more, is the Verdi fastball, the splitter off of it. Splitter has been great, and then the slider. In terms of shape, it's not as standout as maybe some others, but he has a phenomenal feel for it. I mean, just does not waste many with it. I mean, it's a really good ability to locate that slider. So you've got a plus heater, an above average splitter, and a slider that, even if it's average, he executes really well. The taste breaking curveball to mix in, and he throws strikes. He's talking 5% of batters. He screams four starter to me. Maybe you can dream on a little bit more because of the quality of the fastball shape. If he ticks up a little bit, he's 6'4", 220. I thought it was a pretty steep price. I get Shane Bieber is awesome when healthy, and he looks like he's going to be healthy here. As there was a lot of scouts at his last rehab outing where he was phenomenal, and he was sitting 93. And if Shane Bieber's sitting 93, he's going to get a lot of people out, because when he was sitting 91, 92, he was getting a lot of people out. So I think that's part of it. I do wonder if there was some conversation about an extension, or at least that they could potentially be able to get to the table with him, because I don't know if he's going to, if he throws well over this next 2 months. With the way pitchers get paid nowadays, is he picking up that player option, Bieber?
Probably not, but this could be the price for a possible frontline starter as you get into the postseason. Like, what game is he starting for them if they get to the ALDS?
Assuming he throws well. Like, let's say
Assuming he throws well.
A 2.8 or a 3.0 ERA the rest of the way.
Yeah.
Which I honestly think he might have.
Yeah.
Part of me wants to go with the guys that have been there and been doing it, but at the same time, if he's throwing the ball well, I would trust Shane Bieber more than anybody in the rotation.
Yeah.
If Shane Bieber's throwing well, But how
Like,
much can you stretch him out and stuff like that? But you don't really stretch guys out in the
you
postseason.
don't stretch
So
him out in the postseason. Barrios is at a 3.8. Gosman's at a 3.8. Bassett's at a 4.2. Eric Lauer's at a 2.7. So the question for me becomes, do you trust frisky Eric Lauer to start game one of a postseason series? Do you trust the guy that's on an
no,
extension in Barrios?
it would be Barrios, Gossman, or
Bieber.
Bieber.
I think you go Bieber 1, Barrios 2, Gosman
Well,
3.
I think the fact that it's a conversation explains the price, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a chance he opts in, but you'd hope that you have. Again, I wonder if there was at least just some sort of conversation of just like, would you be open to extending or renegotiating that option and that would probably be enough for me too to go get a Bieber given where they're at and there must be this level of confidence with the Blue Jays. We were just talking in the last episode about all of a sudden they're a pitching factory when they were the opposite. There's a pitching renaissance going on in the Blue Jays organization, and they deserve credit for it. Kendry Rojas has emerged as a prospect that I think is right next to Khal Stephen in terms of the echelon there as a back end top 100 guy. Savage is ahead of them. Ricky Tiedemann's going to be healthy, hopefully this coming year, and that's still a guy that you're always going to dream on. They have Johnny King who's kicking through. So there's a lot of arms I think that they're excited about, and I guess they're okay with moving one of them here for a guy that can maybe push them across the finish line this year, and maybe they can keep him for next year.
Yep. All right, next trade we got to talk about the Ke'Bryan Hayes deal, and it was Ke'Bryan Hayes in what seemed like a salary dump. I think Cincinnati would position it as we got better defensively. We got the best third baseman in baseball defensively, and yes, but he also got a career 670 OPS guy with one of the highest ground ball rates in baseball. It seemed dump-ish for Pittsburgh. They got out of that extension that they gave him. They take on some money in Taylor Rogers, but they also get a prospect in Sammy Stafura. Where was Sammy Stafura's value?
I think right around the top 10 in the system, like 9 or 8. And we briefly touched on this one last episode before we hit record because it just went through. And I felt like my case on it is you just added Steele Hall, who is Stafura with all of the sliders turned up. So I think that made them a little bit more willing to do it. And I don't think the bat's ever going to be there enough for Stafura to be that above average everyday shortstop. I think he could potentially be an average regular there if it all works out, but he's most likely going to be more of that utility infield type. And it's clearly going to be a slower process for him as he's going to be 21 years old by the end of the season and probably just be getting to high A. And then I think he's probably going to spend the entirety of the season there. Like it's going to be station to station with him, given Northeast kid, very raw swing, entering pro ball, still always adjusting. The approach has improved, but they're still swing and miss. Like there's a lot of components to it, but he has improved this year, plate discipline wise. I think the hit tool has come along a little bit. He has looked like a better version of himself this year, but I don't think you're losing sleep over that if you're the Reds.
No.
What's interesting is, I mean, this is a roll of the dice for them, though, to hope that they can unlock something, or Great American Ballpark can help unlock something from Ke'Bryan Hayes. But with the money that they're taking on, even though it's not exorbitant, like this is still a team that does count every dollar. I thought it was interesting that for a team that counts every dollar to be okay with taking on this financial commitment, because if he's not any better offensively, it's not really a financial commitment I'd want to make.
Can I give you a counter? How can Great American Ballpark unlock a 49% ground ball rate guy?
That's not I honestly thought it would be a little bit higher.
It was 52 last year. It's down to 49 this year, but the average EV is at 89 miles an hour.
The unlock is going to be via him, right? Like it's just, can he find a way to elevate the ball, especially pull side, more consistently?
Yeah.
I mean, that's he'd have a few extra home runs this year if he was playing in Grand American Ballpark. But to your point, it's not even the ground ball thing. It's the back to the initial point that we were making with Jesus Baez. Average launch angle on hard hit balls when he's getting his best swing off, it's 7 degrees.
Yeah.
It's just, it's rough.
Yeah.
290 slug, like, and you gave something up for it. I just, it's weird. I guess it's worth a shot. I don't know if it's more indicative of them being bullish on being able to get something out of Ke'Bryan Hayes with a change of scenery, or them being bearish on Stafura after a couple of years of having him in the system.
Maybe that, although it just seems like they might have inquired about Suarez, realized the price was higher than they were willing to go. And it was like, oh, why don't we just stay in division and grab a guy who is going to cost a lot less? And they did that.
Yeah.
They also add some pitching. Cincinnati did Zach Littell in a three-team deal. I'm going to give you the whole deal, and you just tell me who jumps out to you. Cincinnati acquired Zach Littell. Tampa acquired Hunter Fiducia, the catcher for the Dodgers, and Brian Van Bell. Brian Van Bell has been around for a while. And then the Dodgers grab Paul Gervais, Ben Rortvedt, and Adam Serwinowski. The two names with prospect intrigue here are Serwinowski and Fiducia. Serwinowski in the Dodgers situation, and I hate doing this. I hate just giving them credit before anything happens. It feels like they can make that weird lefty shine.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what's funny is I thought Sherwinowski was going, and it seemed like the reports were that Sherwinowski was going to be going to the Rays, and it was like, okay, that fits the bill. Funky lefty, command isn't there. Maybe they can, find a way to unlock a little bit more and just develop him. And he's a guy that I think could just benefit from adjustments to some of the pitch shapes and just tweaking the arsenal. But the unteachable stuff from the left side, like he's got that.
Yeah.
But I think you also look at an opportunity here for the Rays to acquire a controllable catcher who's just blocked, like very blocked. He was blocked by even in AAA at points by a catcher who was also blocked. I think what's interesting is how much value Fiducia carried as well, because that was basically how I looked at it. It was like you were getting Fiducia instead of Serwinowski in a way, and I think Serwinowski's a guy that, again, the Rays probably would have been thrilled to be able to add. It's a 94-mile-an-hour fastball from a deceptive release. Opponents are hitting 240 against him this year. The slider looks like it can be a plus pitch off of that as he develops it a little bit more. And then he's mixed in a changeup that isn't a total lost cause. So it's a high probability at the very least leverage relief from the left side. And it's 6'5", but it's a fun template to be able to work with at 21 years old. But I do want to say, like, Fiducia's he's underrated. He can swing it. It's a 90th percentile exit velocity of 105 miles an hour. I'm pretty sure the guy's produced like every year for the last few years. Just classic Dodgers buried guy.
Yep.
Great swing decisions. I won't pretend to know much about the defensive side of things, but I'd imagine he's fine back there.
He's Ryan Ward at catcher. I remember Bueller saying good things about Fiducia catching his bullpens when he was coming back.
Okay, well, that's enough for me. If he's not bad defensively, this is a guy that could be just like one of those late bloomer, 28 years old. Like, why didn't he get a chance earlier? Ends up being a nice piece for you.
Does he take reps away from 40?
He might take reps away from 40,
It's
unfortunately. Okay. But yeah, he's in the ball hard. It's good bat to ball. It's really patient and left-handed hitting catcher.
Yep. The Mike Soroka deal. Michael Soroka goes from Washington to the Cubs. And before I give you what the return was, I need to say something about the Chicago Cubs here, because I just need to say it into a hot mic. If their deadline is Michael Soroka and Andrew Kittredge, this is an all-time deadline fumble for the Cubs, and I wouldn't blame Kyle Tucker one bit for getting out of there. And there's a lot of time left before the 6 p.m. deadline. There's a whopping 2.5 hours. But come on. Like, come on. This is brutal to watch the Cubs operate while everybody else is, like, going for it right now.
It is interesting, and they've got time. There's still plenty of pitchers out there on the market, but as we're recording this, that probably shouldn't be your one move, especially when you look at the last 3 outings. So he's been effective, but the velo's down. So I don't know if that was intentional. Maybe like some of the sinkers, they wanted it to be down a little bit more and get more depth. I don't know. But the last 3 outings, he's averaged 91.3 miles per hour on his fastball, whereas the 16 before that, he was averaging 94.1. So you're acquiring him in that stretch. He has thrown better in those outings. And then he's another one of those classic guys. If you look at the numbers, first time through, second time through, third time through, really good first time through, second time through, bad third time through. So I don't know how they plan to use him. He's still definitely a good arm to add to the fold. But this needs to be one of more moves. I agree.
Yeah. But the trade return to Washington, Christian Franklin, a guy we talked about a decent bit this offseason, he was Rule 5 eligible. He had not played a game in AAA. He's played games in AAA this year. And then Ronnie Cruz, a teenage shortstop prospect. Does it seem like a solid return for Washington for this guy? Like, to the naked eye, yes, but also everybody had their chance to get Christian Franklin in the Rule 5 and everybody passed.
Yeah, and that's fair. And I think that's part of why you actually saw an exciting upside piece included here in Ronnie Cruz, who we talked about at the beginning of the season. I, I think I may have even thrown him in as like one of the honorable mention breakout candidates. I don't think he's fully broken out, but there's some exciting tools there. Franklin has elevated his stock, though. I think the way he has performed this year has probably left some teams regretting not taking him. The swing looks a lot smoother. The swing decisions have always been elite, and that's continued to be the case. He's hitting the ball really, really hard, and he's cut down on the egregious ground ball rate. It's now just kind of high, which is fine. It was egregious before. It was like near 60%. Now it's 47 and a half. So
Yeah.
I feel like he's done everything you want to see. He's been productive in AAA. The 90th percentile exit velocity is 107 miles per hour. It's a 51% hard hit rate. He's going to play a good corner, can get by in center. They've kind of been playing him more in the corner of late. I just wonder what this means for the outfield situation in general. What
Yeah.
I do like about Franklin is great chance of at least filling the short platoon role. 1,072 OPS against lefties, He's hitting 347 against
Wow.
him, 4 of his 8 homers. And the underlying data is even more insane. And he can run, he can steal some bases. So if he's a short platoon guy that can play all 3 outfield spots, to get 6 years of that, I think for a rental Soroka is great. And then you've got a flyer in Ronnie Cruz, who I think is going to take a while. No doubt he's still at the complex, but he's got good defensive skills. Like I think he can not only stick it short, play in above average short. He hits the ball hard, really, really hard. And the numbers have been all right at the Arizona complex so far. So I think it's a fun flyer to take on an 18-year-old who's really young for the draft class, with paired with a guy. So you get a lotto ticket paired with a guy that's probably going to help your team as soon as tomorrow if they wanted to bring him up there.
Yeah, a couple more deals to go through. Harrison Bader is the last multiplayer deal that we got to walk through. Harrison Bader, that package going from Minnesota to Philadelphia. Well, Bader goes from Minnesota to Philly. Going from Philly to Minnesota, a couple of guys that I have never heard of before, to be totally honest with you. Hendry Mendez and Jeremy Valoria. What do you have on either of those two guys?
Mendez seemed I was expecting Bader to actually maybe snag them a little bit more at first glance. Then I looked at the underlying data of Hendry Mendez, who I admittedly have not been following much of at all either. 21-year-old in Double A. Get these data points here. 91% in zone contact rate, a 20% chase rate,
Okay.
hard hit rate of 45%, and a 90th percentile exit velocity of 105 miles per hour. If you just blind showed me that,
That might be a top 100 prospect.
I'd assume he's a top 100 prospect. Now, those 3 data points are always very helpful, but there's always more context that needs to be had, right? You need to look at the swing mechanics. You need to look at certain things. He's longer through the zone, but it doesn't seem to be a huge issue for him. Another guy seems to be the theme of this episode. Average launch angle on hard hit baseballs is 3 degrees.
Yeah.
And he has a 54% ground ball rate. But he's 21. He's also not a very good defender. But he's 21.
Yeah.
And he's putting up some intriguing data points. I think that's a fun flyer. I think that's a fun get. He kind of reminds me of Yohendrick Pinango in that regard.
Sure.
So it may just stall out, although Pinango's not stalling out now. He's getting close to his big league debut. He reminds me of Pinango in that regard, but yeah, I'll take a shot on a Pinango type any day of the week because a few of those guys will turn into dudes.
And whether they got a 16-year-old in Jeremy Valoria?
Holy crap, he's 16.
He's 16. He turned 17 on August 14th.
How do you spell it?
Geremy. Jeremy with a G. Jeremy with a G. 5 starts spanning 14 innings. He's punched out 19 and walked 4 in the DSL. He's 16 years old.
Geremy. Got it.
Yeah, Jeremy Valoria, 16-year-old pitcher.
I can't even find him. That's
I've got 5 starts in the DSL on Baseball Reference. That's all I have.
that's wild. It's Villoria.
Villoria.
Still not finding him. Here he is. I got him. Yeah, I mean you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 starts. Fastball's average 90 miles per hour. He's striking out 36% of batters, though.
This is a new low on the call up. We're just okay. What does this 16-year-old do that makes you
16?
really excited?
He's 16.
Can't watch a rated R movie yet.
No, he there's a lot of things. That's wild. But yeah, I mean, it's a rental baiter. It's a good outcome. I mean, you got production out of him. I don't
Yeah.
think anybody was expecting him to be this good. And you got a flyer right-hander, and then Mendez is again. I'm interested. I'm interested in that data.
Yeah. One for one swaps here. Sir Anthony Dominguez from Baltimore to Toronto for Juaron Watts-Brown, a guy that there was some draft intrigue around when the Blue Jays took him in the third round in 2023 out of Oklahoma State. Watts-Brown was good stuff, struggling to find the strike zone at points in his draft year, right? 82 and a third. He walked
Mhm.
48, but he punched out 124. And this year, 89 innings at a 3.5 ERA between high A and double.
This, the Blue Jays pitching, man, you would have never got Sir Anthony Dominguez for Juaron Watts-Brown last year, but he made a leap this year. The two breaking balls have been phenomenal. The fastball's still a liability, but maybe he can find a way to mask that a little bit more. The curveball and the slider have been fantastic. He looks like he could be a guy that if he can mask the fastball enough, can be a back end of the rotation starter. But I mean, it's been a big up arrow for him this year, and he's still 23 years old until the start of next season. So I think it was a good selling point for the Blue Jays to create an asset here with where he was considering where he was at last year. But I think it's a decent right-handed arm potential back end guy to get for Dominguez.
Blaze Jordan, one for one swap. Blaze Jordan is going to St. Louis for Steven Matz. Matz is having a very good year as a reliever. He's making $11 million this year in his final year on that 4-year contract. But Blaze Jordan this year between double and triple A, 44 games apiece, 88 games in total, hitting 308 with 12 homers and 62 driven in. He's only punched 38 times
Isn't
in
that crazy?
358 plate appearances, and he has an 872 OPS. When I see a slug that's 5 points under 500, and I see 38 punch outs in 88 games, I'm paying attention.
He can hit, and he's dealt with a lot, and he's had injuries. He's been upfront and open, which is always applaud about mental health challenges as well. And so it's been a roller coaster. Then you've seen him now this year back and ready to go, and he's been great. Now the other side of it is, well, then why move him? He's Rule 5 eligible, and there's just no space. So you might as well do it now, get
Yep.
a piece instead of just getting your 100 grand. Because he probably would have gotten taken. He can get by at third. He probably profiles best at first, but he could get by at third. And if there's a Rule 5 candidate I'm going to take, it's going to be the guy who doesn't strike out at all. Say, hey, let's drop you in there. Let's see how you do. At least he's not going to get blown up, right? Like, I think
And the
it's
power's in there. The power's been in there since he was like 12 years old.
since the power showcases, right? I mean, he's hit home runs 112 plus miles per hour this year. It's just how consistently can he get into them? His EV90 is 106.5. This is interesting. At the same side, I don't think you can knock the Red Sox. They were not going to find a 40 spot for him,
No.
especially right now.
And they got a
But
lefty bullpen arm. Like Mats can throw a seventh right now.
yep, I was going to make the joke that the Cardinals have Luke and Baker at home, but this is just way better.
Way
I
better.
think because again, he can get by at third, but he's a lot more complete of a player. He's just 22 as well, so more could be unlocked, and he's missed out on a lot of reps. So I think this is a fun flyer, and
Yeah.
I do think it says something that Chaim Bloom targeted him because I think it says something about what I think he thought about him as a player and the person when he was in the Red Sox organization. So Chaim Bloom clearly wanted the opportunity to bring him back in town.
Yep. Two more guys here. You had a moment with Jeter Martinez. You really liked
I
Jeter
did.
Martinez in Seattle for like maybe 3 weeks. I'm going to give you a 3 week window of really liking Jeter Martinez. 19-year-old from Mexico. Martinez is in low A Modesto this year, but he was just traded to Pittsburgh for Caleb Ferguson. This year, 62 and two-thirds innings at a 6.2 ERA.
It has been better of late. He is just 19 years old. His last 5 outings at low A, it's a 2.31 ERA. But yeah, I mean, it was you got an eight earned. You have two eight earned run outings this year. That's gonna tank the ERA, or I should say the opposite. It's gonna spike it. The command has just not been good. It's a 58% strike rate this year. The stuff is good though. He's got a pair of fastballs in the mid 90s. I think that they're pretty distinct in terms of the way that they move, and then you've got a power curveball as well. So 19 years old, 6'4". It's a fun flyer to take for Ferguson. But yeah, it hasn't happened as quickly as maybe I was hoping when I got my first look at him at the complex.
Yeah. Last and maybe least, but I will say last but not least, Wilfri De La Cruz, who was in the DSL for the Cubs, was traded. He was a return for Andrew Kittredge, who goes to Chicago. 17-year-old from the Dominican Republic, 27 games in the DSL, hitting 262 with an 860 OPS. He's walking more than he's punching out, but no homers in 113 plate appearances. Funny thing about Andrew Kittredge, I told Jeff Nelson, who was, setup guy for 4 World Series with the Yankees in the 90s. He was setting up Mariano. I told Nelly that Kittredge was making, what, $10 million this year? And he was so pissed off. He was like, "What do you mean I was Andrew Kittredge?" Like, it was a
Dude,
very funny interaction there.
one of my favorite things to do, and it's probably cruel, is if I ever get the opportunity to speak to 90s baseball players, let them know the player today that is in what they're making that like kind of fits their maybe I never did the fits their bill. I usually did the worse. I like
Yeah, but like
this player
slightly
is much
worse. It's like,
worse than you were, and he's making 50x what you made.
right,
And
like Nelly was like as good, if not better, than Andrew Kittredge, and he's making $10 million this year.
with Niner with Jeff Conine, that's always a funny game to play. But that's always good. I will say, good bat to ball, patient. I mean, I think I could be patient in the DSL. You could be patient in the DSL. So you take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, I mean, it's a 17-year-old shortstop who may have a chance to stick there and puts the ball in play and doesn't chase. So I think that side of it is interesting enough. We also got the Yankees, the rest of the Yankees return. Edgelin Perez was the other guy.
Sure, you like
So
him?
he was in the top 15, I believe, for us. I think he's an intriguing catching prospect that you can hope develops into a little bit more offensively, but it's not been very good this year offensively. But defensively, he's been pretty solid. And then uh, Brian Sanchez, I don't know much about him, minor league outfielder. So that's the rest of the deal. But Flores was the main get there. So maybe not as good a complementary pieces as I was expecting. But I think you're excited to get Flores potentially for the Pirates.
Definitely are. That's what we have so far. Anything else that comes through in the final 2 hours of the trade deadline? We will recap, I think, on Monday, right?
Yeah, we'll do that, and then we'll have more top 100 recaps to get through, and we'll probably do newcomers and then a mailbag around it next week. So look forward to that. Have a great weekend. Hope you guys all enjoyed the deadline, and we're gonna enjoy the last couple hours of it here, and we'll talk prospects with you next week.